Kelley, thank you so much for joining us. I just had my 1-year checkup, and my doctor's like, how many drinks a day do you have? And I thought, is that now a part of the overall medical questions, especially women are asked when you go in for your checkups?
I hope so. I think it is important to look at a whole health perspective when we're looking at alcohol consumption. And I don't want to get too specific about how many drinks, because as one of the other guests mentioned before, alcohol affects us all differently.
Yeah.
And so the CDC says that 1 drink a day is moderate drinking. And we also know that there are 5 glasses of wine in a bottle. And so the question we need to be asking ourselves is, how do I feel when I drink? What's my motivator for drinking? What are the effects of drinking? And as a clinical social worker, we look at the person and environment and how is our life being impacted negatively by our drinking.
If you feel that you don't have a problem, that it has not crossed into that area of where your sobriety, so to speak, is in question, but you still see it as self-care, how do you curve correct that?
Having a conversation like this that is so vulnerable and open and honest and eliminating shame and being able to look at all of the ways that we can engage in self-care. I know for myself, even during the pandemic, I heard Jessica Simpson say last week she wasn't thinking about drinking during the pandemic, but we are in a mental health crisis.
Right.
And so, we have had to up our coping mechanisms and our self-care. And that can include meditation, yoga, connecting with other people, making a mocktail at happy hour instead of drinking alcohol. There are a lot of creative ways to engage in self-care.
And also feeling that you don't have to. I think a lot of the times if you're with your group of friends and everyone's having a mimosa, you feel like you have to.
Sure. So to break the norm, nobody likes to be the only one in a group who isn't drinking and doesn't want to draw attention to them. I give everybody permission to say, it's okay. You don't have to have a drink today. If you want to, sure, indulge. Drinking isn't bad.
It doesn't come as a requirement of the friendship. And I think that's what we're talking about today. Well, Kelley, I appreciate you joining us.
Life's too short to surround yourself with unhealthy people. So how do you recognize that in your friends?
A big indicator of that is the repeated patterns and being able to distance yourself and put boundaries in place, because people are triggering other people all day long and projecting a lot of their own insecurities.
Therapy, Kelley, can really help.
Either individual therapy, couples therapy, group therapy. There's so many options out there. And I love telling people we're not responsible for our first thought. It's the preceding thoughts that we're responsible for. Well, I was a binge drinker, and so I would go out and drink with friends. I met my husband at my parents' bar. Drinking was so normalized in my world, and I didn't know anybody who didn't drink. So it changed for me when I did have kids at home, and I went from binge drinking to drinking every day just to manage. And I would switch my drinking. I thought, oh, it's the wine. That makes me too tired. I had read in People magazine that if I drank tequila, it would be an upper. So I started drinking tequila.
I believe that too. Is that wrong?
Is that not right? It worked. I got laundry done. I could stay up later. But the insanity of it, of trying to manage and control my drinking. And I didn't have a rock bottom moment. And I think that that's really important for people to hear, because my progression went from binge drinking to drinking every day. And I had a 6, a 4, a 2-year-old, and a 6-month-old at home. And today my kids are 12, 10, 8, and 6. And they celebrate my sober anniversary with me every year. And they make me a cake, and they sing happy anniversary, and they just say that they like mom better without alcohol.
Why are people obsessed?
Oh my goodness, because it's escapism. It is tapping out of reality. And I think especially today, it's so important to unplug and recharge. Connection in and of itself is so good for our brain chemistry. And so when we're doing something that we feel like we can move and sing, it just really heightens the experience of connection with somebody.
It's important to not look at behaviors and ways of thinking in all or nothing, or labeling it as good or bad. Set small, realistic goals so that we don't set ourselves up for failure. So, for example, if my overall goal is to be healthier, don't go into January saying, I'm giving up every sweet, I'm only eating fruits and vegetables, I'm going to work out every day. No, get outside, move your body, take each meal as it comes to set yourself up for success rather than an expectation of I was either good or I was bad. Being able to work with people in community is so important so that you feel supported in your journey. And so it's really important to write things down. It holds you accountable and it helps you measure your success. And tell a friend or a partner or a sibling that you're on this journey so that they can support you.
How can people try and stay hopeful around this holiday, whether they're in a relationship or not?
Great question. You know, it's important for people to remember it is only a day or only a weekend. And certainly, as you guys were discussing about the weather, don't let it get you down. It's important to reframe and think about ways that you can engage in self-love. If you're not in a relationship, focus on taking care of yourself, or even getting outside of yourself and focus on showing gratitude for if it's your kids or a sibling. And that can really be a focus of love as opposed to just focusing on a relationship. We have this idea in our mind from movies and other people's relationships or what they're posting on social media. And oftentimes it's this grandiose fantasy of being swept off your feet and getting roses delivered. And if they're feeling a little blue during this weekend, to write down things that they love about themselves or ask somebody to give them words of affirmation. Having it written on paper can be so helpful in people actually seeing things. And then behaviorally, go out and buy yourself flowers, take a bath, bundle up and go for a walk. It can be such a mood changer.
Well, I think oftentimes people are leery about giving up alcohol because they're concerned about how they're going to look in social situations and that they're going to miss out on fun. And one of my favorite mocktails is, there are so many different kinds of flavored sparkling waters and sodas. And so pack that glass up with ice and pour it. There you go. You know exactly what you're doing. And I like to add a little splash of cranberry.
This is good, yeah. Here we go. And then a little squeeze of lime, I'm thinking here too.
You got it. And it's really refreshing. It's not too sugary. And you still, so much of drinking can be very ritualistic. So
Exactly. And here it is.
Well, Mark.
In my practice, I work with a lot of high-functioning people who are working 16-hour days, and this idea of self-importance of, I can't take the time, people need me, or I'm going to get behind, and recognizing you're not that important, and not putting that much pressure on yourself, that everybody deserves a vacation and being able to carve that time out. It's great to be able to go away for a week or 2 weeks. That's really a luxury. But even if you can get away for a weekend, the benefits are so great.
It's good for kids to be moving their body and dancing and singing, and they can connect with friends virtually. And I didn't know you were going to show that. That's my 8-year-old daughter and I. It helps us connect.
It's a culture that is really normalized in our society, but it can also carry over into gray area drinking or problematic drinking. And if people have a history of any kind of substance abuse in their family or mental health issues like anxiety or depression, it can be used as a coping mechanism. We need to look at different ways that we express our
love in our relationships, whether it's emotional intimacy or physical touch or quality time. But most people who are having great sex aren't really talking about that either, because it tends to be such a taboo topic, but especially if there's any dysfunction going on. And typically we think of dysfunction as male dysfunction, erectile dysfunction, but a lot of women experience sexual dysfunction as well. Low libido, difficult time having orgasms.
I think it's exhaustion. But what do you do?